Greetings, fellow humans, and welcome to this tiny garage. I wanted to start off this week and take a moment to thank those of you who have left comments online, words of encouragement and helpful hints. It's a part of doing these videos that I wasn't expecting to be so enjoyable, and I really appreciate you guys being a part of it. And so Garth Wade Hewison in Cape Town, South Africa. Party on, Garth. Hello, sir. Also Kelly McGill in California. Hello. Not forgetting, of course, Darren of D6 Strategies in Toronto, Canada. I do hope you have a jacket, Darren. Bobby Mitchell, Athens, Georgia. Your advice was right on the money. And Aya Herman in California. Thank you for coming to my rescue, sir. I really appreciate it. Now, this week is a big week for the Tiny Garage. Any of you who watched to the end of last week's episode will notice that we acquired a new button. Now, I really like buttons, and so let's start there. We know now that we need to take out this car's engine in order to work on it properly. To take the engine out of a Porsche 911 style car, you need to lower it out of the car's rear end. I read a bunch of forum entries and also watched a bunch of videos trying to figure out how high up you have to get the car in order to get the engine out. And it seems that 26 inches is the magic number. And now this is the largest style of jack stand that I have in the tiny garage. And if we extend this guy all the way up, and so this is like to the last tooth, it goes up generously. You could say it's 24 inches. Now if you put it at the very tippy top, which is dangerous, maybe 25 and a half, maybe 26 inches. So really, no, for these guys. But then this is I've got two trolley jacks, and this is the bigger of the two. And let's see how high up this guy can go to see if it's going to be usable. Okay, so the trolley jack only goes up 22 inches. It's very, very topmost point. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers and see if this is even possible. Now this is the tiny garage. The entire garage is between 8 and 9 feet tall, and so we're going to call it 100 inches because that makes the math pretty easy. And the car itself is sort of a sporty car, and sporty cars are generally kind of lower to the ground. This one is no exception. It's about 6 inches off the ground. Now the car itself is about 45 inches in thickness, and then on the ceiling of the garage there is a garage door opener box, and that comes down about 10 inches from the ceiling. So then if we do the math on that, take that 10 and that 45 and that 6 away from 100, that leaves us with 39 inches. And that should be enough. This is how the professionals do it. A two-post lift with a large hydraulic lift table in a spacious garage. Look at this place, it's so clean and so huge, including a fancy paper towel dispenser on the lift. Wow. Anyway, the problem is that most two-post lifts would be too big to fit into the tiny garage, and even the ones that could fit, you'd need to climb over or under them to get from one end of the garage to the other. Another downside is that after delivery and installation, a two-post lift can easily cost more than $5,000. In a home garage, people have found all kinds of creative methods to get the engine out of their Porsche. This 996 is kind of like my one. It's up on axle stands. There's also a transmission stand for the transmission, and then they've used these two large blocks of wood and a snowmobile stand, it looks like, for the engine. This one also looks like a Porsche 996. These axle stands look like my ones, but they're extended all the way to the very, very top of their travel. This one also comes with a fun game of Porsche Jenga going on, and lots of wood on top of what looks like another snowmobile or bike lift. Next up we have a classic 80s era Porsche 930 with smaller jack stands on top of ramps, plus a regular trolley jack to catch the engine. Here we have a 60s era actual original 911, and this one they've gone for a piece of wood with what looks like a metal grate on top of a breeze block that's strapped to another snowmobile or bike stand, and that's also seems to be on axle stands on top of plastic ramps. This one is my favorite. It's the Magic Porsche Boxster. It's a 986, a very similar kind of car to the 996 that I have. Those front wheels are not on the ground. That car is being held up by some magic force. Overall, I was thinking I could maybe manage to pull this off with one of these hydraulic jack units and have the car go up and down. But then by the time you try to have a hydraulic table underneath it, which is a minimum height of 11 inches, you need to really have these kind of jack stands that are much higher up and really are not cheap at all. But if you want that, then you have to get an extension for your trolley jack to be able to get up onto it, or you need one of these super fancy high lift trolley jacks to get it up onto those high jack stands. Take a look at this guy. See how professional, calm and alive he looks. Now by comparison, look at this guy. See how dead he looks? I felt like I might be like that guy if I didn't take this seriously. I felt the need to bring in the big guns, so I headed down to San Diego's Miramar Air Force Base, or at least near there. I couldn't find Maverick. Goose wasn't there for obvious reasons. Iceman was nowhere to be found, and I couldn't find that other guy either. What I was able to find was YRC's huge empty warehouse. I went up to a tiny window and showed a guy my identification, and then another guy, possibly the same guy, came out with a forklift truck with a box on it.
Oh, what's in the box?
Well, I'll show you what's in the box. Not so quick, actually. Look at this. This was so heavy, it's 1,200 pounds all told. So I had to use the winch from episode 2 to drag that off the back of the pickup truck and into the garage. Again, not so quick. So this thing, I bought it from China. It was cheap. And when it comes, it's set up to run on 110 volts, which is what we have in America, but it doesn't really have a proper wire. This is the wire they give you. It's designed that you could set it up whatever way you want, whatever country it goes to. What I ended up doing was taking a standard American power cable and chopping off the part that doesn't go into the wall, and then wiring those wires, it more or less made sense, into the wiring that was coming out of the power unit. Again, not quite so quick. You do have to fill the power unit's reservoir with 1.5 gallons of this hydraulic oil. Thanks, Maverick. Anyway, now that it's all figured out, it's easy. So you just plug it into the wall, switch on the switch. Starting at the top, you have this bike brake looking thing. If you want to let the lift down, that will pull back the locking mechanism that's preventing your death and allow you to put the lift down. That's a master switch that I just didn't wire in. I'm way too impatient to have a switch on my switch, especially when I already have a switch on the wall, you know. So now if you want to start it, you just press that switch and the lift will start going up. To put it down, you just push that lever in, it presses that little black button. That lets the valve open and lets the fluid back in the reservoir and the lift goes down. If you want to move it, those wheels allow you to tilt the power unit back and then you can move it towards the lift and put that little piece of black metal into that tab on the lift, and if you lean back real hard you can move it around. It's very heavy, but you can do it. So here it is from the front. You can see I put in these ramps. It is possible, even with the car being just 6 inches off the ground, to get it over the lift, but in order to put on the jack adapters and just to have some freedom under there, I put in these wooden ramps. They're just over 3 inches off the ground, a little over 5 inches wide and 10 feet long. If you remember from episode 2, I used that rotary hammer drill to drill those expanding bolts into the concrete. So I used that same thing to bolt these pieces of wood to the ground. That's the power unit for the garage. You can see that that's as high up as I dare put the car. I put a strategically placed pool noodle on the mechanism for the garage door, and I also taped back the metal cable that's a part of that to stop it from scratching the paint as it goes up and down. So I got this lift from A+ Lifts. It's an HWSL 6600X. It can hold up to 6,600 pounds, which is double what this Porsche weighs. And at that height, you can see I've got just over 42 inches between the floor and the bottom of the engine. Even if you include the hydraulic table at a minimum height of 11 inches, that's still plenty of space. As some of you may remember from the first episode, when this car arrived, the engine had no oil in it. Last week, I put 8 quarts of oil into the engine just to be on the safe side when trying to turn the engine by hand. When I'd finished with all that, I drained and strained the virgin oil through rare earth magnets to see if it contained any debris. I also took apart the oil filter and immediately found a small scroll of shiny metal inside the ruffles. I then removed and cleaned the oil pan after checking it for debris. Finally, I sent the oil sample off to Blackstone Laboratories in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Here's the analysis information that came back. The numbers on the left are the quantities found in the Porsche's oil sample. The numbers on the right are the average quantities to be expected in healthy oil. You'll notice that the numbers are suspiciously similar. The oil I sent in is considered virgin because it's not circulated through a running engine, and so I was not really expecting much to show up in these columns. I was, however, expecting the labs to tell me a little more about the 2 little scrolls of metal that I'd found in the oil filter. My hope was that they could tell me details about the alloy percentages, and that I could use those numbers to cross-reference the alloys that Porsche used to make their engine components, but I was definitely wrong. In the notes section of the analysis, these lines caught my attention. 1. We're not seeing any signs of residual wear or contamination in this sample. 2. Metals are not higher than expected for virgin oil. And 3. Only trace amounts of insolubles, solids, are present. So I called them. The lesson to be learned here is that oil analysis is designed to pick up debris on a molecular level. The tiny pieces of metal that I made sure were in the sample may as well have been the size of a school bus as far as their equipment was concerned. Blackstone were not able to shed any light on what the debris may be. I asked them to send me the sample back to do a bit of research of my own, and they agreed. Here's a picture of all the debris that I found. It has 3 main groups: brown plastic chips, black rubber, and metal shavings. From the research I did, I feel that the brown plastic is from disintegrating variocam pads that adjust the timing chain tension. Here's what they look like after the chain digs into them for a few thousand miles. The black rubber is also slightly magnetic. We know from last week that this is likely to be pieces of oil pan gasket. The Bentley manual that I got to work on this car is pretty emphatic. Any shiny pieces of metal are from worn main bearings. The main bearings are half circles of a special low friction alloy that the crankshaft journals ride on top of. One positive that I will take from the oil sample is that they found no traces of water or antifreeze in the sample. The final piece of the puzzle was this small rubber plug. As luck would have it, when I was cleaning the oil pan, I noticed that the baffle was missing a small little rubber plug. Bingo. That's the oil analysis complete. Onward and upward. I hope you would agree that this week proves that buttons are cool. Now, if you would like a lift just like this one, call Frank at A+ Lifts. He did give me a promo code you can use to get a little bit of a discount on one of these lifts. I'm going to put it down there somewhere. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time.